A new financial policy by the CBN has mandated banks in the country to raise their minimum capital requirements to 500 billion naira and 200 billion naira for their international and national operations. The idea is to enhance resilience, solvency and capacity of the banks to continue supporting the growth of the Nigerian economy. Good development, Dikio?
Yes, I think it is. As we go on, our banks must be financially sturdy, financially strong. Having gone through the era of distress, nobody wants to see that happen again. Nobody wants to see that happen. And it is sufficient liquidity and the way a bank is run, especially the risk management arm of the bank, the way they conduct themselves, that can help a bank stay afloat. So I wholeheartedly support the idea that the new capital base for commercial banks with national authorization should be 200 billion, while the new requirement for those with regional authorization is 50 billion. So the CBN has also directed them to consider injecting fresh equity capital through private placement, rights issues, or offers for subscription. So we are going to see banks going to the public again and asking us to come and buy
they'll treat us better,
as we had as it happened that last time.
Yeah.
You know, when I think it was Soludo who presided over the last recapitalization exercise, and he saw the merger of banks that are not strong enough in terms of capital. They had to come in, and the CBN governor said they cannot use that they should not use their profit, you know, at this time to for the recapitalization exercise. You know.
Secured.
Yes, it's a good development for me. The last recapitalization was done in 2005 by Charles Soludo, and the share capital was raised to 25 billion naira. And when that was done, so many banks went under. Some merged, and only 20 survived it. Currently, we have about 25 banks, 25 commercial banks, that you can say that are banks in that true sense of it. So it's coming 19 years after. I think that we should have done this far before this. Probably, this is about 19 years since that was done. And you can see what is happening now. That's the problem we have is that most of these banks, as it were, cannot be able to finance serious capital projects, big time capital projects. Take for instance, if you are going to set up a cement factory in Nigeria currently, there are few banks that can be able to finance that. That is why you see most of our investors going outside to look for funds, to seek for funds, and the rest of them. But it's a good development. What it's going to mean is that we are going to be able to separate the boys from the men. Now, it says, let's put it in 3 categories. For those that are termed as international banks, those are banks that have offices in Nigeria, in Africa, and some other part of the world. They are going to cover 500 billion. And the beauty of it is that Central Bank has given them 2 years. Yes. 2 years to be able to do this. Now, for those that call themselves, those that are national banks, the national bank, those that have banks across Nigeria, is going to be raised to 200 billion. Some of these banks, there are some of these banks that are also regional banks. That's why when you are opening an account, you have to be very, very careful. You can open an account in Lagos in a particular bank. If you go to my state of Imo, you may not be able to see that bank. You will not be able to transact in that bank, except you have your app or whatever. So for those ones, it's going to be 20. So what the CBN has done is that to be able to make sure that we don't fall into the same problem we had in the past, where people were struck to the point that they were not able to remember the days of Savannah and all those other banks. Just ACB and the rest of them, Commerce Bank and the rest of them.
Whereas we see how banks like First Bank, they are still here.
Wema Bank, even Wema Bank, I'm using. So Union and also some of the issue is that the essence is that so that Nigerians will, because if we don't do this at the rate at which the volume is falling, you will come to realize that one day you just wake up and go to your bank and you say that the bank is solvent.
All right, gentlemen. Joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this issue is an economist, Nnemeka Obiarere. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Easter.
Good afternoon. Happy Easter. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you look good, Dr. Obiarere.
Thank you.
All right, so this is it now. What do you think prompted these new guidelines by the CBN?
What prompted the guideline because of the devaluation of the Naira. Naira atrociously lost value from 2015 at 199 to where it is today. As at Friday, it closed at 1,300 Naira to $1. Now, basically, let us interrogate these numbers that the CBN, this new recapitalization policy. National banking license, 200 billion Naira. I want us to convert it to dollar terms. As at 2005, when Charles Soludo did the first consolidation, it was not done because the Naira lost value. It was done because the CBN governor then felt that there was need for us to build very strong banks that will enable them finance big ticket transactions. As at 2005, when the national banking license capitalization was put at 25 billion, the dollar equivalent was $189 million. Today, even at $200 million, billion Naira, the dollar equivalent is about $145 million. Basically, the banks that were capitalized at 25 billion Naira in 2005, without the version of Naira, is actually stronger in terms of dollar terms than the banks that are going to be capitalized within the next 2 years. And let us not make mistake. This idea CBN saying, oh, they cannot capitalize their profit does not make sense at all. The banks will find a way around about it. Look at the balance sheet of the top 10 banks, the top 5 banks. As at 2022 December, the shareholders fund of Access Bank was 1.2 trillion. Access Bank just recently declared dividend of 730 billion. If you add it, we're talking about shareholders fund, almost about 2 trillion Naira. Equity fund. So they've gone way beyond 500 billion. Basically, what they would do is to declare dividend. Their shareholders will take the dividend, then they will do a right issue, and they will buy back those shares, and they will have what they want. The same thing for Zenith Bank. As of December 2022, shareholders fund 1.2 trillion. GTB Bank 935 trillion. UPA the same thing, billion. So basically, if the whole essence of asking them to recapitalize is you are expecting foreigners to bring in dollar, it does not make sense. Nobody will. How much dollar are they even going to bring to dilute the existing shareholders whose positions have been so consolidated? Are you going to ask an Access Bank that already has shareholders fund in almost about 2 trillion to begin to look for new investors when they can always find a way around about it? See, let us face facts. Look around you. Asking banks to even if the banks recapitalize to the tune of $1 billion, that does not solve the problems we are looking at here. In all over the world, banks don't fund transactions based on their shareholders fund. That's what we call syndication. Nigeria is the only place in the whole wide world where you see people carrying their bags to come and beg you in your house, bring deposit, begging you, women being sent to prostitution in the name of bringing deposit. In America, in South Africa, in Kenya, Ghana, nobody disturbs you. For example, if a customer of a bank wants to finance a project, somebody talked about cement. If you want to set up a cement factory that is $5 billion, you don't expect the banks to use their shareholders fund. After all, that's what we call single obligor limit. You cannot lend more than 20% of your shareholders fund to one obligor. Basically, what banks do in order to develop the economy is for such companies that want to raise money to float what we call commercial papers. When they float those commercial papers, banks will now provide what we call bankers' guarantees, an off-balance sheet item, and they will take it out there and they will float it through the stock exchange or through the capital market for Nigerians or global investors to subscribe. And you see, the fundamental issues here is not asking bank to see. What we want is financial inclusion. The likes of OPay, the likes of Kuda, the likes of MoneyPoint, the likes of VFFB even have more customer base than the big banks we are talking about here. In fact, most of these micro lending institutions, most of these tech banks, even payment centers, have actually done a lot in terms of bringing financial inclusion, banking the unbanked segment. Look at Kenya, financial inclusion almost about 80%. Look at Ghana, financial inclusion in Nigeria is practically less than 60%. And to drive financial inclusion is what we want. Bring the unbanked segment into the bank segment. One of the reasons why the monetary policy of central bank is not working is because the informal sector is larger than the formal sector. Trying to ask banks, let me tell you, the top 10 banks are not going to break a sweat meeting this capitalization. And so Carlos are telling them, oh, you can't use your profit. They have a way around it. It is their money. They can decide to pay dividend to their shareholders, and they will pay out huge dividend, 80% dividend payout, and they will bring back the money to buy their share. You cannot tell a man what to do with his money. If the whole essence of this exercise is, oh, you expect foreign investors to bring in dollar, sorry, my brother, no foreign investors will bring in money. Let me ask you this question. Financial instability. No foreign investor will bring in dollar here if we don't fix the foundations.
Okay, let me ask you, because social media, where there are so many experts on these matters, you know, we are hearing that they want to indirectly force the banks to bring out their stock of dollars and all that. Is that really, does that really make sense? This what people are saying, that this is one way in which the CBN is trying to lure these guys to bring out their stock of dollars.
It does not make sense. You know, sometimes people post things on social media out of ignorance. First of all, if, for example, now a commercial bank goes outside there to raise euro money, a euro bond of $1 billion, when they bring in those monies, they don't keep those monies. So what they do a swap with the CBN, and they collect the naira equivalent. The CBN has a clear bird eye view of every dollar, every cent in the system. So where are the bankers going to bring out dollar? Why do you think that Cardoso decided to create zero net open position for long-term dollar holdings? Because they believe that was what the banks took some long-term long net open position, which made most of them to profit so much with the devaluation of the naira. Go and check most of the banks. You will see clearly that 97% or 87% of their profit declarations were based on foreign exchange gain. It was not based on the fact that they created risk asset or supported the risk asset of the economy. So basically, anybody telling you, oh, the banks are going to bring dollars where they hit somewhere, or the dollars that they moved out of Nigeria is wasting your time. There is no bank outside there that will bring in any dollar. Already look at go and check their balance sheets. As of December 2022, most of these banks have shareholders fund in excess of 1 trillion naira. Asking them to recapitalize to a tune of 500 billion naira, and then telling them, oh, you cannot use your profit to recapitalize, does not make sense. It's like they're asking a man, oh, I want you to come and buy a car, but you cannot use the money in your wife's account, or you cannot use the money you kept in your fixed deposit account, or the money you must use must be the one in your portfolio.
Do you see some mergers taking place? Do you see?
There will be no merger. I have taken time to look at the balance sheet of most of the banks. There will be no merger. Banks like Stanbic IBTC, they are, after all, they can decide. They have a parent company, Standard Bank, that can decide to recapitalize based on, after all, they own the majority share. I have looked at it clearly. I've taken time to study the balance sheet of the top 10 banks. My brother, we have 2 more years to go. There will be no merger. So I think what they wanted to do was to see, okay, foreign investors, maybe like we had in 2025, in 2005, maybe want to flow in dollars and all those stuff. But I can tell you, there is no honest and designed investor. Remember that This is not like you raise MPR to 24%. And then foreign portfolio investor, maybe from Japan, where the MPR is about 0.1. The man goes to a bank or a hedge fund in Japan and takes money at 2%. He flows into Nigeria to the CBN dollar, does a swap with them, buys T-bills, buy bonds, oversubscribe our bonds. And then 180 days, 270 days, 360 days, the man is going back. Those men are hot money players. They are like sharks. When they pay blood, they go after the blood. And they already seeing blood. Yeah, the same way it is in Ghana, 29%. And they're flowing in there. But recapitalization is a different ball game. You're talking about foreign direct investment in the longer haul. There is no foreign direct investor who understands his numbers, who knows his onions, that will inflow his cash dollar into an economy where forex instability moves left and right without any stability. And remember again, prior to 2025, when Obasanjo became president, the naira to the dollar exchange rate was 88 naira to $1. And of course, by the time we did the capital, the dollar naira was about 113 naira. So there was so much, the naira was very stable. It wasn't as if the naira was unstable. Whoever that was bringing in the investment could actually predict the direction of the naira within the space of time that the investment was done. How do you expect an investor to just inflow dollar into an economy where a currency can lose its value in 100% in less than a year and can also gain 50% in less than 1 year? Come on.
All right, Mr. Neme, can you hold on, please? Mr. Oberere, I'm sure when you say there will be no merger, you're talking about the top 10 banks. What happens to the smaller banks? How do they meet these requirements?
Go and mark it somewhere. Mark it. I said it today. If there is going to be any merger, it may be maybe one or two. But most of the banks will fully recapitalize. I've taken time to study their balance sheets. Like the top 5 banks have already crossed the trillion naira threshold. And Access Bank already has shareholders fund almost in 2 trillion naira. Zenith Bank, as at 2002 December, shareholders fund 1.3 trillion. And their profit they've not declared for this year. The same thing for GT. The same thing for UBA. The same thing for First Bank. So how do you expect the shareholders of these banks to open up their books and begin to look for new investors when they have the war chest to cross the 500 billion naira mark?
Okay. Part of the problem we had in 2005 during the recapitalization was the loss of jobs in the banks. Do you see that happening this time around again?
To be honest with you, even the banks itself, go and look at the level of personnel attrition. Most of the banks, most of their staff who has capacity are leaving Nigeria in droves. Take out time to call any banker. You will call a banker today who is your account officer. In the next 6 months, you call him, he will tell you, I'm either in Canada, or I'm in Singapore, or I've migrated even to Saudi Arabia. So, 2024 is a different ball game than what happened in 2005. Banking is no longer even interesting as it used to be. Some of us have been in this industry for the past 23 years. There was a time you wake up in the morning, the excitement, the adrenaline is buzzing. Today, what we are practicing is not banking. The joy is no longer there. The stability is no longer there. The passion is no longer there. You cannot even predict what happens in the next minute. Go and check from 1919 to 2015. Naira to the dollar lost only about 38 plus 72, only about 100 naira in 16 years. Then look at what had happened over the last 9 years, and he showed it. And because we are not busy, see, let me tell you, there is Yemi Cardoso is actually grappling with limited options. I feel sorry for him because there is not, whatever you see him doing is based on the limited options available to him. Some people have queried, some of us have queried, why did he raise the MPR to 24.75%? Today now, you cannot borrow money from any bank at anything less than 36%. Mostly they are giving you at 40% because he's only tackling one issue, trying to see if he can stabilize the forex volatility we have in Nigeria. The 90% job is for the presidency and the 36 governors. We need to tackle theft of crude oil. Between June 2023 till December, there was a premium time report that showed we lost $10 billion to crude oil inefficiencies and theft. It is still there. We need to begin to tackle the physical side. Tackle insecurity headlong. devolve the security architecture of Nigeria, stop the oil theft and the criminality in Niger Delta. You saw what happened in Okwama and other places. If you look deeper, you will discover that it has everything to do with oil. Show up our oil reserves. Increase our output to 2.5 million barrels a day. Get our refineries working. Provide security so Nigerians can go back to work and begin to provide revenues, dollar revenues from the non-oil sector. All this concentration of attention on the CBN and the banks and monetary policy instruments, which is 10% of the problem, cannot help this country. Like I said, by the time Cardoso is tired with all the available tools available to him, we will come back to square one.
Now, the Naira, Dr. Buhari, the Naira has appreciated in value in the last few days. Where do you see this taking us? Because there were people who thought that we could even get to 2,500 Naira to $1. But now we're seeing some level of farming up on the part of the Naira. Where do you think we'll get to?
Let me tell you what's happening here. And like I said, Yemi Cardoso is doing his possible best within the limited instruments available to him to stabilize one of the problems. And one of the problems he's grappling with is the issue of forex instability, forex volatility. And what he's trying to do is to use monetary policy instruments to drive it. That is 10%. 90% of the problem is on the physical side. Basically what he has done. And for those of us who are not really conversant with this, by raising the MPR to 24.75%, the real yield will be almost about 27%. Let me tell you what will happen. For foreign portfolio investors, you see, they are willing to ride it. There are other climes where they have, like in Japan, MPR is 0.1, not even 1%. A hedge fund or a portfolio investor in that place can easily go and raise $1 billion and use it to buy federal government bonds, T-bills. Basically what they do, when they buy our T-bills, they are lending money to the Central Bank of Nigeria. When they buy bonds, they are lending money to the federal government of Nigeria. And what you do is that you will have hot money flow into the economy. Of course, it's a simple law of demand and supply. When you have so much dollar flowing into the economy, hot money, of course, we will meet our demand, both legitimate and illegitimate demand. Naira will, of course, lose. Of course, those speculators are afraid dumping their dollar. But we have not yet sustainably plugged the leakages or fixed the liquidity side. Because in the next 1 year, these guys that brought in this dollar, we want to take their dollar out. As of today, I see Naira dollar hovering between 1,000, 1,003. It will play within this band. Some of us even predicted it, that it will even go to 900. But that is the limit to which he can do. If we don't show up the physical side, stop the corruption demand for the dollar, fix the dollar illiquidity by ensuring that we stop the oil theft and inefficiencies, increase oil output and non-oil revenue by allowing our farmers to go to the farm so that we can stop the inflations and the other commodity prices that have gone high. After 1 year, those investors, remember that in every balance sheet there's a two sides, credit and debit entry. When these guys bring in this dollar, our reserves is inflated. But there's a liability side. The CBN must fulfill their swap obligation of giving them back their dollar when they want to exit. So by the time this guy stays 1 year, this 1 year period will be a reprieve period. What Yemi can also have done is to buy us time.
All right. Buy
us time by doing everything. Of course, the local industries will suffer because any manufacturer that borrows money at 40%, inflation at 29%, by the time you add energy cost and everything, the mass manufacturing cost may even be 100%. Therefore, he becomes less competitive compared to other producers in other climes. But it's a punishment we need to take now to enable us by the time Yemi Cardoso is providing for us, so that the presidency, the FDA leadership, and the governors will take our time to fix the physical side, to fix the physical deformities, which have to do with insecurity and all other things that happen. Right. If after this 1 year, after this reprieve, Yemi has provided for us, they don't use the physical side, we'll go back to 2000.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Nnemeka Obiariri. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you heard him talk about financial inclusion, and the biggest responsibility lies with the president and the 36 state governors.
Yeah, we need to produce a lot more. Why should Nigeria not be able to meet its OPEC quota? It's a crying shame. If a war-torn country like Libya could be overtaking us as an oil producer, then we should be ashamed of ourselves. We need to address the oil theft going on in the Niger Delta, then make the environment conducive for even the foreign investors to remain here, because many of them are also divesting, they are leaving Nigeria, and when they leave, production suffers. So we need to address production so that we can earn a lot more from oil, from crude oil. And then when the refineries are working and we stop importing petroleum products, the dollars that we use to dedicate to importation of refined crude oil, we can use it to, we can pump it into the forex market and improve liquidity, improve access to the dollar. So we still have a lot of work to do, as he said. I agree with him that we need to address the problem of production so that we can earn more.
Sikian, 30 seconds.
Yes, I totally agree with him. Simple economics, export more, import less. But my own challenge here is with the news coming out from the creeks that our oil production has dropped. The last we heard even during the week was that we are even trying to import crude oil from United States. We are not meeting our, but then the question I've always asked is that what of the people we are paying to protect this oil pipelines? They are paying billions and billions of naira. What are they doing? We need to make sure that we leap that those holes so that we can be able to export more, and also look at other areas where we can export and expand. The way so much is going with this, then that the naira is really improving against the dollar. But how long this is going to take is what we don't know.
All right,
but as it is presently, I don't think we are doing badly. But
all right, then. Our final topic for today, the